to do this job. And that very week, we had the war, the start of the war in Ukraine. Then with that, we had the increase of the vulnerability of many countries to food crisis. And with that, we had the increase of vulnerability of many countries to energy crisis. And we had, especially after COVID, the shocks associated with debt, therefore many developing economies and emerging markets dealing with the debt services in many cases exceed what we spend on education and health. Then I was asked to deliver the job of the climate champion as a coordinator of the work with Niger then, and we're just trying to see what this is actually entailing in terms of responsibility and efforts. So one of the very first calls was with Juanita Silva, who's here in the room. And actually, it is not the demand of the Minister Shukri of Egypt, I didn't know Dr. Mona at the time, or the demands in such troubled world. I worked closely with the Secretary General of the UN, and he kept reminding us that we are in a world that is suffering from a deficit of trust and surplus of crisis. Surplus of crisis is my addition. Deficit of trust is his. And then this conversation with Wani is telling me, based on the good steps of work of the two champions that she worked with closely, Gonzalo and Niger, that she needs 10 of me full-time dedicated to deal with all of the requirements of the meetings, including the internal meetings. I survived that one way or another. She may have something to share with you and how I managed to do that. But anyways, now on the substance and efforts and outcomes. There are two ways of handling that, and there will be an opportunity to provide updates to you, but without losing your attention, there is an important publication by the team of the Climate Champion, which is the yearbook of the Global Climate Action, the 7th edition of our annual report, which showcases all of the action that the team has done, as well as the work progress under the high-level champions and the Marrakesh Partnership until now, including under the Sharm el-Sheikh Adaptation Agenda, the Breakthrough Agenda, and the Race to Zero, and the Race to Resilience campaigns. And there are many updates on that, and colleagues in the room, including Rama and Jen, here for updates on that, on the progress, and I'm happy with the reference that was made to the efforts that have been accumulated positively during the year. But basically, for a man coming from a village, from a developing economy, living between Washington and New York, I had this kind of interesting experience between the global agenda and localized impact. And with the teams, we managed to do many good things, focusing on solutions. We can talk forever about gaps and how gaps are widening. We can talk about hardships, and we realize them. And of course, from our good champion from Libya, she gave us just her own experience that speaks a lot about human suffering. It's not just the numbers that we're talking about when we talk about the challenges facing the Earth or the implications of life and livelihoods. It's basically this narrative by people who are going through times of trouble and how they are surviving. Best way to do that is going to have a reference that Excellency Razan and myself belong to, that with hardship comes peace. We believe in this when we have this kind of confrontation of shocks to the system, from wars, conflict, to the catastrophe that we see almost every hour, not every day in Gaza. We cannot really say, well, there should be some ease coming through these hardships. And that ease will not just be a gift from God, it will be through the work of people with the blessings and support of God. And here, in each of the crises, small or big, we need to find a solution for it. And for all of these goals and targets, we need to go to the GSP its means of implementation, focusing on the efforts that we should really be completing in the mitigation and adaptation front. And perhaps that to spend more time on the finance and investment side, I can just share with you some highlights to be continued and completed in the future. But before doing that, very quickly, there are a series of events within the program that our team prepared for you and for all of the participants in COP28. And I'm happy that the work of the champions, the teams, the partners, and the partnerships at large of Marrakesh is getting closer without losing its autonomy and independence with the presidency of COP. And Niger recognized that and encouraged it when we started to do lots of good work with the Egyptian presidency of COP27 and COP26. The mere references that you hear, the numbers of the reports of next and their assembly was a joint partnership supported by the champions from the very beginning and the team. When you hear these numbers of the 1.4 trillion to be domestically mobilized, the 1 trillion from external sources, this is an outcome of many consultation and good work of the independent working group, but very much supported by us. The Sharm el-Sheikh Adaptation Agenda is a joint outcome of the presidency of COP27 and the team of the champions, and of course the good work of the many partners that we have in the Marrakesh partnership. The work that we are going to be sharing with you all are many partnership action events that will highlight the progress and solutions across various thematic and cross-cutting areas. There are implementation labs, HLC, special events, and of course, you will find lots of work. This is the year of the GST, so I'm providing lots of updates on this. If there is anything to be highlighted on substance, many people talk about the loss and damage as one of the major deliverables of COP27, and we were happy to see, and that was a nice response to skepticism about what we do from COP to the other, to the recommendations, followed by serious work by the participants and the members of the Transitional Committee, was translated in a decision in the first day of this COP through the operationalization of the loss and damage fund. That was not really coming without hard work by many people. Many of them are not necessarily with opportunities to talk about what they have been doing behind the scenes for that to succeed. Actually, the very idea of having a loss and damage fund and the serious work with adaptation is coming from a great man with a legendary contribution to our work who has been recognized by his effort, Dr. Salim al-Haq. So it's basically the kind of efforts behind the scenes, little or big, will really be with implications in the future that we need to be very serious about. On the many aspects of the work that we are pushing, we have to align with the goal of keeping the 1.5 degrees climate resilient world with the reach. We need to realize that climate action and economic growth towards achieving the sustainable development goals, the SDGs, is not really subject to negotiation because it's evidence-based approach that we cannot really achieve one without the other. So issue that bringing climate action specialists with development and SDG specialists together with their specialized supporters when it comes to finance and means of implementation was heavy lifting. We were confronted by a great deal of push against the idea of getting the two camps and campaigns together, but now they are part of one. And Razan is adding a third dimension that was not necessarily included in the discussion with this kind of substantive and integrated way of how to design policies and implement action when you get nature and biodiversity. So now, for the global public goods, before they turn worse or being formidably global public bads, SDGs, which are not in track, climate action, which needs to have more finance, more incentives, and more technological solutions to support it. And of course, the work of nature and biodiversity is basically being transformed during the last 2 years. And I'm happy that two Arab countries belonging to the emerging markets world are leading the kind of thinking toward that. And this is a different world that wisdom, determination, ideas have no particular source behind them or particular geography. They are as good as they come to solve the problems of the humanity. Just on finance, and just I'll give the opportunity for you to listen to the champion I'm very happy and pleased to work with. Nothing against my happiness to work with Nigel as well, but that's added happiness. I think I exhausted the patience and steadfastness and usual and unusual sense of humor when I was working with Nigel, who is still in his feet and pushing hard all of us to do better and more. But it was really a pleasure to work close with Razan. It's a pleasant opportunity to learn from her and to enjoy her hospitality, her kindness, and her dedication to what she believes. And we all are believing in what she believes, and that we cannot really do climate action at the expense of nature. And we cannot really do all of that without getting the whole thing within the sustainable development. So, finance, boring as it comes. Unfortunately, all of the nice work that you are trying to do in all of your areas, fighting poverty or protecting nature and biodiversity, cannot do that finance. And here we had some solutions. And I'm happy with the work that we did at the global level, including challenging the multilateral development banks and the IFIs for the first time. I'm a man who lived with and in Bretton Woods for almost 30 years. As a minister and then as an employee in the World Bank and now at the IMF. So I know that how we think, because I belong to these institutions. It was important and unprecedented that for the first time we challenged the IFIs and the MDBs and their work. When we said it is climate finance as we stand is insufficient, inefficient, and unfair, we meant what we're talking about. And it's not just about the 100 billion, it's the whole ecosystem of finance that needs to be challenged. In order to deal with these goals of mitigation and adaptation, we need to get more serious when it comes to finance. So I'm happy that issues of finance, including the MDBs, have been tackled. We provided solutions on debt management, and today the managing director of the IMF is talking about a system to include debt swaps, not as a substitute for the excellent point that was made earlier by the young speaker, the young champion from India. When people talk about carbon markets or debt swaps, these are not alternatives, these are not substitutes. It's to complement a toolkit. And I think we need to be very much careful here, because we cannot really have the luxury in the future, or even now, to consider one source of finance as a substitute to the other. It's domestic and external, public and private, with innovation, with blended finance. Make every tool possible that would really help you in the means of implementation to get after the targets. Don't get the ideological differences when it comes to means of implementation as an obstacle, as a hurdle. Our eyes are on the SDGs, on the delivery of the targets of sustainable development. Our eyes are on the climate action agenda based in the Paris Agreement. In whatever way we should achieve that, in an inclusive way, in a fair way, we shouldn't really be shying away from getting that included. Happy that this came out with solutions from African countries. We will not impose the debt swaps. People like Maya Motti has used the debt swaps under conditions. Seychelles, Belize, other countries from Latin America, Africa, and Asia are using these tools, debt swaps and carbon markets adapted to the needs and tailored to the needs of these countries. So we don't have the luxury to be ideological against tools of implementation. Get them, be serious about them, challenge who's behind them, and then tailor them for the needs and objectives of countries. I'm happy as well, and please help me. For those who say developing economies and emerging markets do not have opportunities to invest, and please show us a pipeline of bankable and investable projects. Colleagues from the Climate Champions, BCG, the Regional Economic Commissions have answers to that. We have more than 420 answers and emphasis that you are wrong if you are saying that there is no pipeline of bankable or investable projects. From small projects to deal with maintenance of batteries for motorbikes in Rwanda and Kenya, these are basically $5 to $10 million size of investments required, to the hundreds of millions and close to $1 billion or more for the expansion of solar plants in Morocco or in Egypt. Pipeline exists, and we are having a report called Assets to Flows. It was launched yesterday, it's available, please consult it, and we're going to be talking more about that. And if you want to go out to a deep dive, I champion, and with the support of the presidency of Egypt and the prime minister there, the establishment of a pipeline of bankable and investable projects based on a clean, smart filters with impact on the SDGs. So many solutions are there, and I'm just happy to conclude by two positives. One is basically when I came here, and perhaps it could be my life, living on charitable contributions by many as ideas that I need to include in my interventions. But I was very happy to see this, which is basically a leaflet for the Champions for Children at COP. And this started by discussions, and I'm happy that our invitation to 8 children from around the world, including an outspoken young scholar now from Colombia, and a great moderator from Dominican Republic, have made it to this list of the champions. And they are doing more emphasis here, narrative, solutions, and raising ambition, of course, in addition to what we heard from our minister champion. And the very final thing, I was in doubt until we heard, which is basically about the fund. This is the third fund with good news in this COP, and we are just in the third thing. First fund was the loss and damage, and we mentioned all of that, good news about it. The second fund was the establishment of the $30 billion of investments announced by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the $30 billion that were very much in anticipation after the announcement of the $4.5 billion. And now the final fund is the Green Climate Fund that was very much busy as a facilitator for its replenishment. And today we have $12 billion and $475 million. This is exceeding the target for the GCF in the most difficult of times with the announcements made today. We were only 9.5 billion until we reached 12.475 billion for the Green Climate Fund, which is a fund dedicated for mitigation and adaptation in equity between them and dedicating its work to low-income and low-middle-income countries. Having said that, it's a great pleasure to work with you. I still have 2 days left in my assignment in this role. So, unfortunately for some, fortunately for me, I will have an opportunity to provide an update on what are we doing from now until we meet again towards the end of the COP, because every day counts. Thank you so much.